Hi, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. If everyone would take your seats, we're going to get started. We'll have Ron Holnick come up here. Who doesn't want to hear from Ron Holnick? All right. All right, Ron, come on up. Let's give Ron a big hand.
Thank you. You didn't say anything great about me.
We know all the great.
You think you can be soul-centered coaches? Ha! Really? We'll find out. We'll find out. So my job here is just to introduce Carolyn and Stephen. Place Mary in the light. She went home early tonight. She wasn't feeling very well. So, just light to Mary and light to everybody online. I hear there's 1,000 grads online. Is that right? Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And I am prone to exaggeration. So, Carolyn and Stephen, what can I say about Carolyn and Stephen? Why do we have them doing this course? Well, they're the best, obviously. So, for those of you who don't know, Carolyn was actually working at USM for 12 years doing enrollment. And I don't want to say she was the best enroller we ever had, because then other people might take that personally, but she was damn good. The thing I love most about Carolyn and why she is so well suited for this is because you're talking to somebody who really walks their talk. You're talking with somebody who started out not knowing a lot about coaching, teamed up with Michelle Bauman. The two of them just became very successful. They facilitated many women's programs in particular. And then when Michelle made her transition, or right before that actually, it was clear that Michelle and Carolyn were not going to be able to do the last class together. And so Mary and I looked around and we said, well, who are we going to bring forward here? And we said, well, let's each go inside and see whose name pops up. And coincidence of coincidences, of course, we both came up with Stephen McGee. Those of you who don't know Stephen McGee, I consider Stephen a coach's coach. He's climbed Mount Everest. Well, not really. What was that mountain you climbed? Oh, huge. Huge. Yeah. Let's just say big. Yeah. But both Carolyn and Stephen have the ability to do what very, very, very few coaches today can do. I don't have to tell you, there are tons of coaching programs out there. I don't know any of them that doesn't have goal line as its focus. You want to earn $1 bazillion, have the best life you could possibly have on the earth, visit all the great places you think are going to make you happy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Come to our program and you are assured that you will earn $40 bazillion and then you can do all of that. Our perspective is, well, that's very nice, but that's not going to really provide you with the fulfilling life that you are really after. Because in order to get that, you have to learn how to work with people on the soul line. And if we've learned anything at USM, have we not learned that? So we were talking at the end of dinner tonight, and I made the statement that, if people have financial concerns that get in their way of doing the thing that they really would like to do, those people will never be soul-centered professional coaches, because they will just keep drawing to themselves people who have money issues, because that's the way consciousness works. If you don't know how consciousness works and how to work with it, you are not going to be in much of a position to help other people work in consciousness, which from our point of view is the biggest need on the planet right now. We need more people of consciousness. Less victims, more people of consciousness. So, I don't know what they're going to do, but I think I'm sure it'll be fun, because in addition to everything else, they're fun people. Let's welcome Stephen and Carolyn.
I was like, oh, I didn't realize you were right behind me, so I'm glad you're here.
Right behind you. That's almost always the case, by the way.
Hi, everybody. So great to see all of you, and thank you everyone who's participating online. We're excited that you're here as well. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. I just got in this afternoon from Denver, so I'm grateful to be here, and even more grateful to see all of you here, given that you're committing a portion of your life this evening to yourself. Welcome. Thank you for whatever you did to be here with us. We're going to have a lot of fun this evening and provide some value. I believe there's an opportunity tonight to really shift something inside yourselves in terms of leadership, in terms of soul-centered professional coaching. So you guys game for that? Yeah, good.
Great. And another thing I want to add to what Stephen is saying, so yes, and it's also our intention that you walk away tonight. I know how I feel when I go to something and I walk out and I say to myself, I can never get that time back. I can't get that time back. So our intention is that you walk out of here and you say to yourselves, that was an extraordinary and worthwhile 3 hours of my life. Like, I'm walking out of here with something that I didn't come in with.
And that is our clear intention, is that would occur for you and that we would serve you in that way. We will be talking some about the Soul Center Professional Coaching Program, but there will also be opportunities, if that's something that you're clear that you're not going to do that. I believe you'll walk out of here this evening with some tremendous insight into leadership, into how you roll out in the world with the concepts, the principles, and the technology of spiritual psychology. So let's talk about leadership a little bit. And to talk about where we're heading in terms of leadership, specifically as it relates to soul-centered professional coaching, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about what I call the old model of leadership, so we can do some comparing and contrasting. And if we look out in the world, there's sometimes demonstrations of what I would call that old model, and I know that it's true because it comes from a couple of different places, at least from my experience. One of those is what I would call the Industrial Revolution. And back in the day, when people were producing different products, they were doing it based in machinery, right? So it was, how many of these products can we roll out? It was, if a machine broke down and we had to fix it. So I want you to start to be cognizant of the language of that form of leadership, because it seeped into corporations and it started to seep into the world. So we can't fix people. We can fix a machine, but we can't fix people. The Industrial Revolution brought that into our taxonomy or our language about leadership. Secondly, we started to see it in terms of how people were, viewing it from the military. So military leadership's a little different than being in an office, right? Because in military leadership, there's a command and control, autocratic nature to things. So if we were in a battle or something like that, it was that we had to go do what we needed to go do, and there wasn't a conversation about it. This, too, has snuck into the language of leadership. And so we have this opportunity as soul-centered professional coaches and leaders to break the code and to create a more progressive model of leadership that we're going to speak to in great length and experience here this evening. Anything to add to that?
I can't wait.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so to understand it a little bit more fully, we realize now that there's a physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual connection to who we are as spiritual psychologists, as soul-centered professional coaches. And how we integrate all that becomes really important as we go out in the world. An email exchange recently between Carolyn, Ron, and myself and Mary was profound to me, because in this exchange we were really starting to create more fully what it looks like. And the spiritual piece that we're attuned to here at the university, so that as soul-centered professional coaches and leaders, we are literally listening to Spirit and moving forward from that place as coaches. So this becomes a really important integration to who we are as leaders and coaches.
Yeah. One of the things I want to add to that, when we were having that email communication go on between us, we started to really look at, like if we were going to come up with attributes of what is a soul-centered leader? What is a soul-centered leader? And then what is a soul-centered leader inside of the context of being a soul-centered professional coach? And to me, that's a really exciting question to be in for yourself, for all of us. Really, what are those attributes? Am I living those attributes? Some of you, we know, are here tonight because you're considering the coaching program, and that's fantastic. And those are important questions to ask yourself. Am I prepared to cultivate those qualities as I start to consider serving in a new way out in the world? And some of you are here because you're leaders in your own professional life in different professions, and maybe you coach within those professions, even if you don't have what we would call a coaching practice. And these are still really critical attributes to ask yourself, how much am I living into these? How much am I demonstrating these? How am I showing up? And, it's very clear, we could all probably talk all night long about what's happening right now in front of us in our country and how that's providing all of us with opportunities. I mean, to me, as a USM graduate with the principles and practices of spiritual psychology, I really can't think of a better time for us to be standing forward and using those tools and skills in our lives and in our professional lives.
There's a very important element that continues to emerge in the conversations that I have with people every day, and that is about self-permission. Donna, you had your hand up.
Oh, hey, Ron, thank you so much, Donna. We didn't call on the light. We'll take care of it. Go ahead. All right. We can do that.
Go ahead.
No,
It's
that's
okay.
totally
We'll
fine.
have a much better flow with the light.
Exactly. We love that.
We've done it before we came up, but we should all do it together. as a team.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So let's all close our eyes for a moment and just take a breath and just let it out. And Lord God of all creation, we come before you just now and we ask that this room and each of us herein be cleared through the Holy Spirit. And we ask that anything that doesn't serve, any limitation, doubt, judgment, disturbance, negativity, any imbalance that's in the way of us standing forward in greater soul-centered leadership in our lives, we just ask that it be lifted and cleared. And we ask once again that we be surrounded, protected, and filled with that clear white light of living love that comes straight from the heart of God. And we ask that only that which is for the highest good and the highest good of all concerned to come forward, keeping in mind each of our unique destinies on the planet. We ask that our time this evening be filled with growth and upliftment, divine guidance and attunement, support, grace, clear intention, clear action, and new insights, awarenesses, and inspiration, and anything else that would serve us. And we're so grateful to come together in loving service to ourselves, to each other, to our own futures, to all the people that are in our lives and all those that we can serve in the days, months, and years ahead. And for this and so much more, we just say thank you. So be it.
So it is. All right. And Donna, thank you. Because you beautifully demonstrated what I was just going to talk about. I love how that goes. So permission. You know, in my conversations with people each and every day, it seems like that's one of the issues that people have about becoming a soul-centered professional coach. Like, we have this unique ability, given our education here, to attune to the Spirit and to really serve people from that beautiful place. How many of us experience that in conversations every day, just by a show of hands? So lots of us, almost all of us in the room. But this idea of leadership really comes from the place that I would give myself permission to rise up, to stand forward as a leader and utilize the skills, the tools, and the principles that I have, especially, as Carolyn was alluding to, with what is going on our planet, which is all perfect. But the progressive nature of coaching, which is an industry that I believe we're in the entrepreneurial curve of. Like, we're just seeing the beginning of this thing. It's still being defined. And we, as I see it, are the leaders in terms of that, how we can progress as coaches and assist the industry. Let's move into some attributes of soul-centered professional coaching.
Great. So one of the things we were talking about as we prepared for this night is, well, who are the people that stand out for us as soul-centered professional coaches? So I'm going to share, I told Stephen that I was going to cheat and talk about two people, but I don't really consider it cheating because both their names begin with M. So that's not really cheating. Can you guess? So I'll talk about Mary Hulnick first, because in a way, she is really, to me, the ultimate pioneer in soul-centered professional coaching. She really is. And so Stephen asked that I come up with like one-word attributes. Do you know how hard that is when thinking about both Mary Hulnick and Michelle Bauman? So with Mary Hulnick, what I came up with was fierce truth-telling. And I say that not that she tells the truth, right? Because that's not how we talk about what happens at USM. But Mary is fiercely willing to share the truth with people as she sees it. Mary is not concerned about what people are going to think of her. She is not concerned about whether or not someone's going to like her. And she is not concerned about whether or not she's being nice. And to me, she's been an incredible role model for me in my professional life. You know, Ron said I worked at USM for 12 years. Mary was my boss for 12 years. So let's be clear. You learn a lot when Mary Hulnick's your boss for 12 years. And I'm grateful. And then there's Michelle, who some of you, and I'm aware, don't know who Michelle was, but Michelle was my business partner. She was a best friend of mine, and she and I, with Ron and Mary and Steve Chandler, developed the original curriculum for the coaching program. And that's a really important thing for everyone in here to be aware of, that Ron and Mary, we all sat in a room together. Ron, Mary, Steve Chandler, myself, and Michelle. And that is where the original content of the program came forward. And then we were blessed enough to have Stephen join us, who added an entirely new layer to that curriculum. But when we started, and we sat in a room with Ron and Mary, Steve and Michelle, and Mary talked about this at Michelle's service, that one of the things that she most felt with Michelle, and I got the benefit of this every day, almost up until the day that she transitioned, and that is enthusiasm. Enthusiasm. And to me, that is another really important attribute of a soul-centered professional coach and leader. Because if we're not going to be enthusiastic about what we have to offer, who will? Who's going to? Like, if we're not excited about, if I'm not excited about it, and Steve Chandler used to say this to Michelle and I all the time, if you're not going to take a stand for what you do in the world, who's going to? Or as Steve also likes to say, nobody really wants an obsequious, shuffling coach. Have you noticed that? Nobody really wants like a coach who's like, who, me? Yeah, I don't know. Not me. Can you imagine Mary Hulnick if someone said those things to her that I just said and that she was like, oh, no. We'd all be like, do I want to be in the classroom with her?
So we're going to do an exercise now where you will get to identify a Soul Center professional coach / leader that you admire. And you'll be able to share with your trio partners what those attributes are that you most admire in them. And then we're going to do something really fun and I think it'll be, insightful for all of us to see something from the exercise. So let's start now by turning your chairs into trio position here.
So turn your chairs and then come into silence and we will set you up. Yep, standard trio format. We know that for some it might have been a while, but you can do it. All right.
Make sure everyone's got a full trio.
Yeah. And if you have an empty seat in your trio, please raise your hands. And I know that for those of you that are online, you are going to be doing this process. You're going to get the intention of the trio, and then you'll be doing that. Unless you're with people who you can do this with, other grads, you're going to be doing this in a journal format. Mm-hmm. All right. So it looks like our trios are full. Excellent. Okay, so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be talking about who is a soul-centered leader and coach in your life and why. Why? What are the attributes they have? What do you see in them that defines that for you? It can be someone you know personally, or it can be someone in history that has served that for you. That's totally fine. We all know that you know somebody because even as a default, you could use Doctors Ron and Mary Holnick, which are pretty good choices.
Really good choices.
Right? So at a minimum, if you're like, I don't have anybody, use one of them. You can't go wrong.
And to make a kind of a fun point about it, one of the heroes that I have through history was Rosa Parks. Oh. And in leadership, we talk a lot about standing for self and standing for others through self. But Rosa Parks didn't stand. She sat in a bus and made a stand for a lot of people because of that leadership in a way that was profound. And I think that's one of the reasons that I have such admiration and respect for leadership, because it's not always easy. We're not always going to be liked for where we, stand or where we sit. And I think that's something to consider as you pick your person. Like, is this a person that's willing to not only stand the test of time, but sometimes as leaders we're challenged. I know there have been many times in my life when I've done work in the area of leadership where I've been challenged by others that didn't like it. Didn't like that there was a point of view. We're not planting a seed to create more of that, but it's just one of the elements in terms of coaching and leadership.
So each person, when they're in the client chair, is going to have 5 minutes. You'll have 5 minutes to share about this person and why you chose them, what are the attributes you see in them. And then if you're in the facilitator chair, you're going to be practicing heart-centered listening, seeing the loving essence, and you're going to be a voice of encouragement. If someone, for some reason, runs short of the 5 minutes, you're going to say, tell me what else? Or something that you noted that they said, can you expand more on that? Can you give me an example? So you're going to be a voice of encouragement, seeing the loving essence, heart-centered listening. Anybody have a question before we begin? Someone we know? Doesn't have to be. It can be someone in history. All right. So we will let you know when it's time to rotate. So
5, 5, 5, and then we'll do 2 minutes for acknowledgement.
okay. So everybody can close their eyes. Please silently center yourself in your authentic self. Invoke your inner counselor. Clarify your trio intention. Ask for Spirit's assistance. And when you're ready, please begin. All right, so let's bring that to a close, bring that to completion. Bring that to completion and come into silence. And now you have 2 minutes to just share with each other acknowledgments, appreciations for anything that you heard that stood out to you, or anything else you want to acknowledge. And we'll let you know when 2 minutes is up. All right, you can thank your partner. Thank your partners and come into silence. Come on back.
All right. What we're going to do now is we're going to create a list of attributes of what would it look like to be a model soul-centered professional coach based on this experience, based on this exercise. So how we're going to do this is I'm just going to ask you to raise your hand. I'll call on you, and then I want you to share what one or maybe two attributes that you pulled out of your story of that person. I know it's hard to do one word, but if you can get the essence of it, it'll really help all of us create that list for soul-centered professional coaching. All right, everybody got that? And Carolyn's going to scribe for us.
With the largest Sharpie marker I've ever seen my entire life. It's like the most exciting thing. I've never done this. So we'll see what happens.
And we're going to move quickly through this. So who's first? Yes. Humor. Love that. Humor. Yes. Courage is one we hear a lot. Nipper. Playful. Humor. Playful. Yes. Expansive. Say just a little bit more about that. What do you mean by expansive? There's no limit. Okay, I like that. No limit. Yes. Self-trust. Self-trust. We've already talked about that a little bit tonight, Donna. Authentic. This is a person that's authentic. Yes? Listening. Conviction. This person has conviction. Committed. Great job. Let's see. Back here. Presence. Alicia? Spiritual what?
Attunement.
Attunement. Beautiful. Love that. 2 words, yes.
It's okay.
Over here? Relaxed. Simplicity. Yes, sir? Non-attachment. Non-attachment. Over here? Creative. Creative, how are we doing?
I'm doing okay.
Okay. Surrender. Yes. Intuitive. Let's take one more. Patient. Actually, one. So patient. And then here? Loving. All right, loving. I was so grateful loving came out. So let's hold for a second on this. So
Look at that.
Great list. So this is an intuitive, humorous, self-trusting, authentic, convicted, courageous, playful, committed, expansive individual that's spiritually attuned and has no attachment to anything. And that's
Oh, integrity.
okay. We'll take integrity up there for sure. And the truth is, let's hold for now because we could go on and on all night on this, right? But I want us to start having more of a relationship with this list. Soul-centered professional coaching embodies these attributes, at least based on what we've created here tonight. No or yes? Okay. So let's start to look a little bit more closely at this list. Who can see that as you look at the words up here, and I know there may have been some other words that we could put up here, but we have a really good start. Who can see that you have some of all of these attributes? If that's true, raise your hand. Okay, so let's talk about this for a moment, because when I looked around, I didn't see anybody's hand not go up.
Did anybody not raise their hand? Okay, good.
Okay, good. There were some in the back, but those were assistants holding the light, right?
Right.
So having said that, we have some of all of these. So we live in a world, at least the world I live in, that sometimes is in the field of right and wrong. What's one of our favorite Rumi quotes here at the university? Out there somewhere, there's a field of no right doing and wrong doing, and I'll meet you there. So this is true of this too. Like we have some of all of these, and yet sometimes we live in a world in our heads where it's an absolute. Like I'm committed some of the time, but not all of the time. And if I'm committed some of the time and all the time, I'm not sure I could stand up to that list. And so some of the time that I talk with people, they start to talk about, I wonder if I have credibility as a soul-centered professional coach. And we've already started to talk this evening about that. Like, what would it look like if if all of us as a community embraced and embodied this for the truth of what it is, which is we have some of these qualities, these attributes, all of the time. And we're progressing, right? So it doesn't mean there's a perfection to this. And I take myself out of the game when I run it through the list of perfection. Carolyn, what would you add to that?
That I hear this all the time from myself and others. And that it's a way to me, it's a way that I hear myself and other grads talking themselves out of things. Right? Because if we have some idea that like, well, I should be that all the time, it's very difficult. Like, who can live up to that? And it's an interesting, the timing of this, because Stephen and I were in another email loop with Mary, and Mary shared a communication that you'll see, but she talked about what it was like for her at the beginning, and how uncomfortable she was, and how scared she was. And I think that's a really important thing for all of us not to forget. I still have fear at times. I still have days where I'm like, I'm not that. I can't do that. And I know Stephen has those times, and it's like, that isn't a reason to not do. We want to be a voice for here. Like, this is not a reason when you're not in one of these places to be like, well, I can't do that. Who am I to? I'm not Rosa Parks. I mean, Rosa Parks wasn't Rosa Parks until she was Rosa Parks.
She was Rosa Parks.
Right? So we want to hear from you. So we're going to take some sharing now. And I want to hear, like, what was this like for you? How is what we're saying, in terms of where are you inside, in terms of your own willingness to claim more of these attributes for yourself? Who wants to share? Isla. Stand up, and they will bring you the mic, Isla. And start by sharing your name.
Hi, my name's Isla. I don't know why I raised my hand. I want to say my person that came up in my mind, well, Michelle came up right away. You came up, but I talked about Steve Chandler. And I think the thing that I appreciate so much about him is his irreverence, just how inappropriate he is all the time.
I don't, I'm trying to think, like, is that an attribute of a soul-centered leader? Irreverence.
Yeah.
He's funny for sure.
He is funny.
Yeah, and I mean that,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
But I work with teenagers a lot, and I feel like it is such a good quality for me to have in my work with them, is to meet them in that place of, this is serious, but it's really not so serious. Like, this is intense, and there's a whole other reality to go into. I don't know what else to say.
So are you owning that you have that quality that Steve Chandler has?
Yeah, well, I think I definitely have the irreverence part. There's another quality about him is that he gives himself permission to do anything he wants to, I imagine.
I just like that you imagine it.
Yeah, I mean, but some of the stories he shared about the way he's done his coaching practice, it feels so fluid and very dedicated to service.
Yeah.
Like whoever he's with, he's tuning into, like, can we work together? What would that look like? Will it support him and where he's at in his life, but how can it support that person without being so rigid? That's something that I want to experience more of. So the underlying thing with that, I feel like he has a trust that's very deep, that clients keep showing up.
He does. In fact,
Yeah.
one of my favorite things that Steve Chandler says is there are infinite clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last time we offered the coaching program, so I think everyone here knows that he comes into the program, so he's on faculty, and he joins us every other month, and which is an extraordinary thing because he is truly a master coach in every sense of the word, and his role in the program is significant in so many ways. And he once said to everybody in the class, he's like, I did the math. There's, 8 billion people on the planet. So if we were to divide them all amongst us in this room, that would give us a lot of clients.
Yeah.
And he really lives in that. And, you're right, Isla. I mean, I know you know that. Like, to me, Steve Chandler is such one of the things that's not up here, Stephen, and maybe we can add it, is like service.
Yeah.
His stand for service in the world is exceptional. I mean, I'm so grateful that Steve Chandler has been my coach and was Michelle's and my coach together, because one of his things that he says that we took to heart so much when we were beginning is you cannot outserve the universe. You can't outserve the universe. Isn't that great? Isn't it good to know? It's like when I'm working with a coach and they write to me or they talk to me and they're like, oh, should I do this? Somebody's dealing with this and I don't know. And it's like, it's so fun to be like, just do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. You can't, like, the intuitive guidance to serve can never fail you.
Yeah.
And this art of transformation. If we look at what our title for the program is tonight, we're looking at service and transformation and the art of it. One of the greatest reasons to share service as a soul-centered professional coach, from my view, is that I constantly get to grow into myself at a greater level. So my question to you is, what do you see for you? Like, I'm hearing about Steve Chandler, and I get it. But what do you...
Yeah. Well, I am a coach.
Yes.
And I couldn't love it more. And I want to coach like all the teenagers. So
On the whole planet?
Thank God. I'm glad somebody does.
I love them. So I see a lot of service. I see a lot of joy. I see...
For yourself?
Yeah, for myself.
Yeah.
I have a 9-week-old baby boy, and I'm loving the experience of being a coach at home, working with this new baby in my life. So I feel like I'm in love with the profession of coaching for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
Is there any particular quality up there, Isla, that you see as an area to lean into more?
Non-attachment.
Okay.
Yeah. I have like a eagerness in me that it's exciting. I've been pregnant and then with a new baby for like a year, and it feels like I'm just like chomping at the bit to dive in deeper.
I get it.
And that I love that about me, but I also feel like it creates a little like, I want things now and faster.
And
So trust.
I just want to acknowledge your leadership. You know, that you are standing forward in the way that you are, and that you have I'm hearing there's going to be an opportunity later this evening to get even more clear about what you want to create, what you want to step into. But I just want to acknowledge that you're really leaning in powerfully, you know, at this time in your life to a new level. And that's when Carolyn and I speak to progression. Like, none of us are going to get this perfectly. Man, have I learned that. I am not going to do this perfectly. But I'm open and willing to continue to allow stress. And I hear that in your sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give her a hand.
Take one more? Yeah.
Let's take another one.
Who else? Nagar.
Hi, I'm
Sure.
Nagar, and I am really, really deeply grateful to be here. Like, all my life, I felt like this is my life purpose, to be a light, you know, just like everybody else here probably, to be a light bearer. And so I'm really grateful to be here. So who I chose that came up was Wayne Dyer, and I just loved, he came, like this morning I was thinking about him, like he's just so, like the way he shares is so relaxed. Like, there's no effort. It's not marketing. He's not trying. He's not trying to influence you or persuade you. It just, there's this level of integrity, I feel like, within him that just comes out. It like oozes out of him. So that, I really, really, really admire that quality. So I would like to bring more of that. And also lately, my really deep passion, I'm going to move. My deep passion has been, I went to Iran a few months ago, and it's like the change and shift in me has been like profound. Plus, I started MSS, so I'm doing the discourses and everything, and I feel very grateful for that. But feminine empowerment, like, has been like that's been really coming up. And what's going to drive me is I grew up in Iran, right? So I'm like, I don't want to live in this world where one more girl is going to feel shamed about like being a woman or her sexuality and all that. I'm like, the place where I could serve is there, because it's so close to my heart, and I feel like I could share that. So I just wanted to bring that up. But also with talking about Wayne Dyer, like, he doesn't have a target market. It doesn't sound like it's so beautiful that he just shares to the soul, it feels like, of the person. There's no gender, there's no age. So also keeping that in mind. So I'm excited to be here.
Can I respond to
Yes.
that, Nagar? Are you still working as a lawyer?
Yes.
Okay. Is that something
I'm loving it now because I'm doing fertility law, and it's about family formation, so it's not adversarial. It's actually a very happy, loving space. So, yeah.
That's beautiful.
That's also been a blessing. Yeah.
Good for you.
I love what you just said about Wayne Dyer, about how he doesn't have a target market.
Yes.
And to me, that's really valuable, because a lot of people, when they're considering moving into coaching, I'll talk about for a second, they have some idea that, like, I have to have a target market, you know, and you don't. Like, we're definitely, we want everyone to know that
That's cool.
within the curriculum, we don't, if someone wants to work with a particular, like Stephen talks about himself as a leadership coach. Now he does a lot of different kinds of coaching within that. And neither of us only coach women. I don't only coach women. So it's not a requirement. Again, you know, it's funny, I'll quote Steve Chandler. He gets more quotes probably tonight than anybody. He says, do you have a life? Because I'm a life coach. If you have a life.
And that's pretty broad.
It's pretty broad.
Right?
Got a life.
Awesome.
Yeah. And to me, that's really what you're talking about. It's like, oh, it's like I serve souls.
Can I take a moment to acknowledge Michelle? Yeah, because she gave me that 2 hours. She
I remember that.
so much love, and I forgot about it, to be honest. And I just want to really acknowledge, because I really feel like she was the stepping stone for all this. So
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
thank you.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
All right, so that'll be all the sharing for now. We'll have
More
plenty of
later.
time for more sharing later. But before we move on, I'm just going to invite all of us to just once again look up here at this list of attributes and any others that might be inside you that didn't get up here. And just breathe in what that means to you. Physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Like, breathe in what's here for you tonight. You know, for me, I look at that and I say, boy, I've seen many lists over the years because I've done this exercise before, but I see it in a new way even still. Like there's more freshness to it. So consider that for yourself and just get really present with that. And as we move forward, we're going to move into a tool that will help us apply this more. Carolyn and I are both very strong in our beliefs about how we like to move the needle or assist people in moving the needle, and then how does that get applied? How does that, as Ron would talk about, where does the goal line and the soul line really meet? You know, we're not, as Soul Center professional coaches, focused on just the goal line. A lot of my clients come to me and they say, boy, that's what I want. I want more of this. But we learn over time through conversation that oftentimes what they're saying is, no, I don't really want more here, I want more here. And the breadth and depth of that is far-reaching. So this next piece we're moving into is setting the stage for a tool, which we'll get to in a moment. But we've got to cover a few very basics. This is not revelatory, what we're going to share next. It's simple, but for me it's a great reminder, and I suspect it might be for others. And that's 3 focus factors. And I think we have a slide for this. If we could put that up there. Hello, online people. Are you with us? We're going to get a slide up there for you, too.
Yep.
Love that you're joining us online, by the way. So this first focus factor is we can only focus on one thing at a time. Now, I think, in my world, like I can do more than one thing at a time, but I want to draw out a distinction. That's not the same as focusing on one thing at a time. There is a difference. The way the mind works, we can only focus on one thing at a time. But in our world, in my view, it's getting crazier because there's more information coming in, which isn't all bad. It's like I get that information, but I have to be really clear on my priority for the day or for the moment in terms of my focus. We can only focus on one thing at a time. Carolyn's going to share about the next one.
This one also, we've heard at USM, you get more of what you focus on, right? You get more of what you focus on. So, you know, I've heard Mary say, don't focus on what you don't want, focus on what you do want. So, an example in my own life was last year, my husband and I had bought our first home and were involved in a significant renovation, which neither of us had ever done anything like that before. And we would go and visit our home, and it was inevitable that either of us or one of us would start to focus on the things we thought that weren't okay in the day on the renovation. And it really became this test of like every day we'd go there, or when we had to go there, and it'd be like, okay, so are we going to focus on what we see as not happening, or are we going to focus on what is happening? Are we going to focus on what we're seeing that we love, or are we going to focus on the dirt and the mess and the various things that are uncomfortable, let's say? And it was so helpful. This is not rocket scientist, but boy, it was a much better day on the days where we focused on what we wanted to see more of.
Yeah.
Of the beauty, of the excitement, of the enthusiasm, of the joy of seeing things evolve versus focusing on the specks of dust.
And again, it seems so obvious, and yet we live in a world where there's negativity out there. So we, as leaders, as soul center professional coaches, become vigilant in our freedom in terms of this process of focus. And another fun one is avoiding doesn't work. So most of us have heard this one before too, but if I said to you, don't look at my boots, and I know some of them in the back can't see them, but where does your mind go the second I say don't do something? So it goes to boots. Like some of you are curious, even still, you're like, but avoiding doesn't work. And so that's another powerful focus factor.
And it works for a moment, maybe.
For a moment. What do you mean?
Well, is avoiding the same kind of strategy as denial?
Aha.
Is it?
What do you think?
Well,
We coach each other a lot.
yeah, I don't know. Like I was thinking, like Michelle used to say that one of her favorite strategies was denial.
Yeah.
And she was really good at it on
Yeah.
certain areas. Like, and I don't mean that. I mean that in like a supportive way. So, I think they're related. Let's
There
just call
too,
them
I
related.
think it grows. I think
Yeah.
it grows if I'm avoiding something. It grows in my consciousness because I'm avoiding it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to do this thing that I'm not going to do, but I'm thinking about not doing this thing. It's growing in my consciousness. So those are some things to be aware of. The mind doesn't necessarily read don't. So if I say don't look at my boots, it focuses
Right.
on what? So it's just something to consider, and we're going to deepen this as we go. And this concept of choice, coaches love circles. by the way. We don't draw very good ones after a long time, but we love circles.
I've never heard that. We do.
Yeah.
I love that.
And so let's just call this a model of choice. And we're going to talk about choice tonight. We're going to talk about decisions tonight. You're going to get an opportunity to make some new decisions and commitments to these things if you want to. So one of the things that I notice a lot, and again, not revelatory, but something to really consider. A lot of times people, when they want something, they'll focus on what? The reasons of how it won't work. And we can get super creative. I happen to think the ego gets super creative as opposed to our willingness to keep focused on the result that we want. What's another one, Carolyn, from the backside? You mentioned it earlier, like with the house.
Focus.
You and John were focused on what?
Getting in there.
So were you focused on getting in the house?
Getting in the house.
Okay. So the result.
The result. Maintaining our sanity.
Really good one.
Yep.
And sometimes on the backside, we can get focused on, what is not working as we're going through a transition.
Totally.
We'll talk a little bit more about that later. So consider as we move forward this evening, we have a choice in what we're focusing on, backside or the front side. Ultimately, what we're looking for is a way to increase our energy forward. So if I'm focused 50% back here in my life and 50% back or to the front, what's my experience going to be if we were just making something up here? Some people would say it would feel a little bit like I'm being pulled this way, I'm pulled this way, and that feeling at the end of the day is one of, I didn't really get that much done, or I'm stuck. So something to consider as we talk this evening about what you want to do in terms of shifting from the back to the front with your focus.
That's great.
Story about DNA.
Okay. So Stephen asked me to prepare a story of a time where I might have lived this. And I thought, what story can I tell them? And I thought, I have a great story. I've never shared this story before, ever. Some people lived through this with me, but I've never actively shared about it. So Ron shared before that I worked at the university for 12 years. And there was a period in my career at USM where I almost lost my job. And you may be going, what? Carolyn almost lost her job? How did that happen? Well, let me tell you. So I was the marketing director at USM, and it was becoming clear that my ability to focus on detail and project management lacked something. And when Mary Holnick's your boss, and you're supposed to be the project manager, and it lacks something, can you imagine what happens? It gets really uncomfortable. And I won't bore you with all those details, but I'll fast forward you to a meeting that I got called into with Mary and someone from HR. Now, anybody in here who's worked at any job knows when you're pulled into a meeting and someone from HR is there, it's not good usually. It's not good. So I got feedback that it was going to be really better at project management and get better at tracking because it mattered in my role. I was the director of marketing, a lot of projects to track, a lot of things to move forward. And I was, to say that I was in the belief that I had sort of made a decision, like I'm not good at that stuff. And I was able to sort of navigate not being good at it only for so long. Because Mary Holnick, as most of you can probably guess, among other things, is really good at details, right? She's really good at it. That's why the handouts are impeccable. So I got my feedback and I left the office. And then I was at choice time. Choice time. It's like, okay, am I going to be going sayonara, find a new job, or am I going to regroup and decide that...
Thank God that didn't happen.
I know, thank God. Am I going to decide, am I going to get better at this? Like, am I going to see the possibility that this is an area that I can improve on? That I was not born genetically defect in any way in regards to tracking in details, right? Like, there wasn't, like, I wasn't born with that. When I was a baby, they didn't say, oh, Ann, bad project management. I can feel it. She just doesn't have it. So I didn't do that. I decided that I was going to shift that. And one key thing that I did in that process, in addition to deciding inside I was going to do that, is I did something that I really acknowledge myself for because I did it before any of my professional coaching life appeared. Can anybody guess what I did? Well, yeah, but that's not what I meant. Of course. No, I'm just kidding.
Of course that
I did a lot of self-forgiveness because I had a lot of judgment. So yes. I got someone to help me who was really good at it. Really good at it. And it was uncomfortable because she was really good at it, and she was a friend, and she was like, I'm going to help you. She just was like, I'm going to help you. She was like, this is ridiculous. You are going to get good at this. Let's get this handled. And then it changed.
So cool.
Yeah,
It changed because you changed it.
exactly.
And I love that about Carolyn because that's my experience of her with anything that we are looking at. But see, we think it's in our DNA, like this bad project management. And I'm using that language specifically because that's the next tool we're going to be looking at. And to kind of lead into it a little bit, I apologize, I can't remember the exact speech. Dr. Martin Luther King talked about incision and how that meant to cut off. But more specifically, then he moved to talk about making decisions, to cut off alternatives that don't serve what I want in my heart. And I want to be really clear as we talk about this tool tonight that this isn't just a mental tool. This is an integration of all of who we are being as essence, as spiritual psychologists, soul-centered professional coaches. We're leaders for that matter. But at some point, we get to the place where we realize we're processing something so long that it's no longer serving us, and it's now time to make a what? A decision. Now, we won't go in a lot of depth about the difference between choice and decision, but I have to think for me that once I make a decision, there are choices that support the decision along the way. And I don't always make the perfect choice, so I can reset and come back and choose again. But this tool that Carolyn and I are going to share with us, and you're going to get an opportunity to make some decisions this evening if you want, is a simple tool that we call DNA. So you've already figured out by now what the D stands for, right? What's it stand for? And at some point I have to make a decision to move forward. Like sometimes, I joke sometimes, but I mean it, because I work with clients and say you're sitting on the fence and it's going to give you splinters. Like it's time to move to one side or the other. I'm not attached as a coach to what decision a person makes. I just care that they make a decision at times if I feel like if they've been sharing with me that there's suffering in it over a period of time. Now, once I've made a decision, I want to notice every indication of that decision that I've made. How many of us in here have done the CHH class? Great. Just graduated myself in August, one of the most profound experiences of my life. And one of the reasons it was so profound for me was I was tracking so many of the things that I wanted to improve upon. So a decision that I want something, notice every indication of its presence so it brings it into my awareness and I believe shifts things at a cellular level. And then I want to acknowledge it in myself. The value of acknowledgement, prizing, is so far-reaching, right? It starts to change things on its own. But here's the tricky part about this, from my view. We are making decisions oftentimes in our lives, I know I do, that take me away from what I want, like a concentric circle that moves down. So it's less of what I want, but I'm still making decisions, noticing the evidence of it, and it's like it's proving the point, because in a way, I'm creating it and acknowledging it so it becomes crystallized or it sinks in. And this can take place over time, but here's the good news. Even if there's an area where I feel like I'm down here, I can make what? A new decision, shift my energy, notice and acknowledge the direction of more of what I want, so that I'm literally moving forward in that place of grace. And of course, there's a lot involved in that. Like non-attachment was one of the things. I'll put our list up in a moment or two again so we can continue to look at it. But non-attachment, but clarity is power, right? So DNA, we don't have a handout for this because I know you could breathe this in and just decide, notice, and acknowledge in the direction of what you want. Carolyn.
Well, you're going to get a chance to work with this right now. So we are going to move into another trio where you're going to get to work with some questions of what's going on in your life right now. So clearly, it's like all of you are here tonight. There are things that you have been, let's call it pondering about what you're going to do. Or what do you want? It's really a deeper question, right? Like, what do you want? And almost every person I talk to, there's something that they want that they are either talking about a lot and not taking action on, not making a decision on, or they're not even saying it out loud, but there's something they really want inside. So you're going to get a chance to work with that right now. So let's do this. Let's do a quick trio change. Find some new people right now, and then we'll set you up.
Good. That's a good idea.
I forgot about that.
We didn't really. Yeah.
So we're going to go right into this, right? Somebody new to work with, and sit down and come into silence. So in a moment, you're going to receive a handout with the questions that you're going to be working with. And if you're working with us online, you're going to see the questions. And again, you're going to work with these in a journal format. So can we have the handouts, please? And can we have one up here, too? Thank you. Oh, it does? Okay. You giving us both? Okay. All right. Okay. So we're going to walk you through the handout. How to create a life of service and leadership through the art of soul-centered professional coaching. What do you want? Trio process questions. So the first question you're going to be working with, and the person in the facilitator chair will ask, what do you want? Go ahead.
Okay, so on this question number one, I invite all of us to sit and get really present with your heart. Like, I don't know what's true for you, but I know for me, I can get in my head thinking about, well, I should want this thing. And maybe it's not something I really want. So we're all at a place in this room where we can get in touch with that inner knower and really ask the question, what do I want here?
Yeah.
And listen.
And be willing to be bold with that. Like, look, I could sit here and be like, well, I want world peace in our country. And I would concur, I would guess that all of us want that. And we want you to get more present to your own life. Your own life.
Yeah.
It's like one of the greatest ways we can serve other people is to be willing to dare to live into our own heartfelt dreams. So this is for you. So what do you want? And then question number 2, what are you willing to do to have that? What are you willing to do to have that?
I had a client, one of the first clients I ever had, who called me up on the phone, and he'd been to the doctor, and the doctor had said that he had 4 years or less to live because of his health condition. And so these questions came to me at that time, and I said to his first name was Michael. I said, Michael, what do you want? And he said, I want to live. And then I said, well, what are you willing to do to have that? What are you willing to do? He said, anything. And Michael meant it. Now, I know that's dramatic in terms of where we're going with this exercise, but I want you to all hear the possibilities that are here for us in terms of our lives. What do you want? What are you willing to do to have that?
So now you have to tell them what happened for Michael.
Well, Michael is going strong.
Okay.
And he
Good to
lives on the
know.
East Coast, and
More than 4 years?
192 pounds, and he owns his own company now. He ended up he didn't do the USM program, but he did some other work on himself, and he's a joyful, happy human
Awesome.
being. Yeah.
Question number 3, what are some possible actions you could take to support that? What are some possible actions you could take to support that? And then question number 4, please commit to a minimum of 1 action you would like to take to support yourself in moving forward. It's everybody's favorite part, right?
Woohoo!
Yeah, exactly. Because that's really, it's like, look, it's like this is, and one of the things Stephen and I talk about a lot as USM graduates, that we see amongst the graduates that we coach and that we serve. And, you know, USM grads, we have this really remarkable toolkit. We have learned how to work our process. And, you know, there are times, you know, it's like I often joke with people, like, when I have listened to Ron and Mary, they're not out there being like, the entire goal of life is to work your process. It's to work your process. It's not. I mean, the whole thing they talk about is like, we go from having an issue-driven life to a service-driven life. So the intention behind that for me is to be out there serving, to be out there serving. So I want to invite us into that. That's really where action can come from, right? That's the place. So what do you want? What are you willing to do to have that? What are some possible actions you could take to support that? Please commit to a minimum of 1 action you would like to take to support yourself in moving forward. So you're going to have 12 minutes each to talk about this. So if you're in the facilitator chair, you're the person asking the questions. Obviously, you're still using Seeing the Loving Essence, heart-centered listening. And look, it's possible, right? Particularly when we get to number 2. What are we willing to do to have that? That can get uncomfortable, right? Like that might be where you start to see resistance show up. You start to see all the reasons why. Like, you know, it's funny how people will spend time. Sometimes it's really hard for people, even as grads, to spend time in the what am I willing to do to have that. We often end up starting to talk about what we're not willing to do. It's like, well, I'm not willing to do that. I mean, it'd be good to do, but I'm not willing. So I want to invite, as the facilitator, to gently be the one who's like, so I get what you're not willing to do, to keep coming back. What are you willing to do?
Yeah. Help with the focus.
This is not a trio about what you're not willing to do. Okay, any questions? All right,
good.
So close your eyes. Silently center yourself in your authentic self. Invoke your inner counselor. Clarify your trio intention. Ask for Spirit's assistance. And when you're ready, please begin. All right, so bring that to a close. You can thank your partners. Bring that to a close. Thank your partners. Come into silence. All right, who has something they want to share from that? Oh, wait, no, go in here. We'll come to you next. Go ahead.
My name is Edward, and I wanted to share my action step that I've committed to, which is to buy a plane ticket to go somewhere to do service for people that I don't know anything about.
That is extraordinary. All right. I love that. Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah. Right behind you. There you go.
Hi, this was super cool. Catherine.
Yeah.
Mike. This was really cool. There was something about the energy in this room, I just want to acknowledge that brought something that's been simmering into a point of awareness. And the commitment, what am I willing to do to have that, is so big. I'm just going to maybe say that out loud. So I'm going to be stepping into a place that I have never been in my life in order to take leadership within. So what it has been is about mastering intimacy and the masculine and feminine union in a way that is very, very sacred and is based in the teachings of Jesus and Mary Magdalene. And it has a way that it's human, like superhuman on earth, and also super divine. And my history has not had this in it, but I feel this yearning. And I know it's healing for so many of us to be able to step into that masculine and feminine thing. So I'm willing to do what it takes, and I have no idea what that is yet. But the word that came in from tonight was focus. Start to really drive my intimacy with myself inward, and then open to what that's going to show up about the next steps. And that's really all I can know at this point. But it feels really like edgy, on the edge of something that I've never been actually willing to do yet. So I feel like, wow, this is really right on the verge of something that it kind of gives the tremor a little, like, oh. So yeah, it doesn't feel scary. It feels, I don't have a word. I can't. It's like it's like the leap of faith, right? Yeah. It's like this has been too scary for me to go there before this. And for some reason, right this minute, it feels more like a quest and a leap of faith than like too scary to do.
To what?
Rather than too scary
Got
to
it.
do it, it feels like there's some force in me now that's saying, just put your foot down and go in there. And
Can I ask you a question, Catherine?
yes.
Is what you're describing, is this something that you want to do in your work, or is this personal?
Well, I think I'm going to have to drive it in through the
Yeah.
personal, but it is really about service in the world and taking apart rape culture, taking apart all of the things that, but I feel like men are just as disempowered by living in a culture like that as women are. And how can we give men back their respect and power and honor as we, as women, take back our respect and power and honor? So there's no victims here. And we just get it, like everyone gets to have deep, pure, beautiful intimacy with who they choose to have it with in any moment, whether it's physical, mental, spiritual, whatever it is. You choose for yourself, you say no or yes, and then it's very clear. Yeah. And it feels like it's just something that's wanting to grow onto this planet right now. So there's like a little fire going in.
I love that.
So as a reflection back,
Okay.
What I'm hearing is really beautiful, firstly. And I think sometimes there's a confusion that if I make a decision, that I'm somehow not going to be in the great surrender. But my experience is, as I make decisions and move my life forward with choices, that there's an opening that allows this great surrender to see what's next. Can you hear that?
I can. Thank you.
And as I listen to you share, that's what I'm experiencing. Like, we'll see where this goes, but I get the conviction in your sharing.
Yeah.
I get the conviction.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, Stephen, because this is one of those moments where you feel something shift inside you. It just, or I should say, I felt it just shift inside me in that moment of, this is a power, this is a history and a power that I have something to offer around, and now it has an actual life to it, where it used to have I don't want to use the word deadness, but yeah. So now it has life in it. That's where the conviction is. So when you said making the decision creates the place where the surrender can happen so you can let the process come through, until I could make the decision to step fully in, I didn't have anything that could happen. Nothing could blossom under it, because I was just saying I don't know what to do with this. Does that make sense?
I hear you loud and clear. And if you remember with the DNA model, there was the concentric circle. So sometimes for me, I can do this.
Yes.
What I hear you did this evening was this.
Yes.
Like, there's an evolution occurring here, which is a blend, right, between our soul line evolution, but something on the goal line is going to occur. I don't know what your action steps are.
Right.
If you came up with any or not. But the point being that there's an integration going on here that's giving it life, whereas in the past it was more of a process, perhaps, thinking
Yes.
about, looking at, this would be cool if I, and then it's, whew.
Exactly. It was like, and that moment in the movie that we've all seen where the foot goes down and the bridge, the road is
Oh, right.
under, right, for the
Yes.
leap of faith. So that's what just happened by getting really specific tonight, focusing and going through this. So I'm saying thank you. I'm offering my appreciation for this. It was, I'm excited by what, and I don't actually know what's happening.
I wanted to ask you, can I ask you another question,
Yeah.
Catherine? So I don't know why, but I want to know a little bit more specifically. Is this something like you're imagining that you're going to do in a facilitating capacity, in a coaching capacity? Is that what you mean?
Yes. First, I think I have to discover more about where that edge is inside me, and then be able to start practicing it outside me.
So can I offer you something?
Yeah, what'd I say?
Maybe
I
not.
gotta know.
You said, I need to find where that edge is inside me, and then I can start offering it outside. Is that what I heard?
That's exactly what I said.
So I want to challenge you that may or may not be accurate. So this is one of the things in my experience that I see coaches do all the time, or people who want to move forward as coaches.
Okay.
And it's like, oh, I have to do this more inside, whatever this is, right?
Right.
And one of the things we talk about in the coaching program, if someone does that, they're like, well, I think, and we're like, nope, just start doing it. What?
Wow.
I mean that, Catherine. Come on. I'm like, look, I've been around you. I was in CHH with you this last year. I'm like, there is nothing else you need to do inside. And I don't mean that in any way as a diminishment. I'm just like, come on.
Challenge accepted. I hear you. And I have not recognized in the past that is a spinning maneuver. Just keeps me on the same level, going in circles instead of spiraling up.
And I want to offer to you, it doesn't just keep you from spiraling up, it keeps you from getting out there and doing this work. Like, I want to be a voice for, okay, so if this is something you're really seeing yourself do out in the world and serve out in the world, it's like, game on. Like, really. And that, to me, is where the rubber meets the road, right? Like, this is what, I'm going to say it again because that's what Stephen and I are here to do, right? We teach the coaching program. It's like, that's a container where there's no, like, we don't it's not that we don't get to work our process in there. We work our process in there a lot. But we also are like, let's start going and serving. If we all wait until we're at that edge or whatever that is, it's like, I remember when Michelle said to someone like, none of us would be out, we'd never serve.
It's probably not going to be comfortable, but it can be graceful. And I love what Carolyn is saying about the program, and it's one of the pieces of feedback that we heard a lot, which is that the rubber meets the road, like I'm taking this out.
Like if I was coaching you, Catherine, I'd be like, okay, so pick a date. When are you offering something? Isn't that awesome?
Actually, it is awesome. And
Yeah.
I appreciate that you know that that's what you're here for, and that's what you're a stand for. You're taking that stand with people and saying, you've got this.
Yes.
Go.
Yes. And it might be uncomfortable, and it might
gonna
be
be
messy, and you might feel green and clunky. Or as someone who's taken the coaching program, Lori Richards said at the last evening, she never felt green and clunky. How awesome is that? She was like, Carolyn and Michelle and Steve Chandler talked a lot about you might feel green and clunky, and she said, I didn't have that. So there's that too.
It's a total possibility.
Okay. I love it. Thank you for the encouragement, and thank you for tonight. both
And
of you.
thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right.
My pleasure.
Light to you.
Martha. And thank you, Catherine, for sharing, because I feel like you do. So today has been a day of expansion for me. I'm just completing my mastery program with Insight. So I've been at it since 9 o'clock in the morning.
That's awesome.
Congrats.
Thank you. And so I'm really standing up right now because of you and because of what you've shared, because I have a deep, deep desire to be of service in supporting others finding that joy that I have found in finding myself. And so I've played along, I can't do it, I need more of this, I need more of that. And today, what I discovered about myself is that I am enough where I am, and therefore I'm ready to step out and do the work that I need to do. Don't know how it's going to develop, I don't know where it's going to go, but I want to be, I am in the process of polishing that rock of coaching. And so the question becomes, where can I continue that polish? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I see myself somewhere facilitating. That's where my love is,
Yeah.
right? So I just stand here saying, somewhere it's going to happen, but I know that's going to happen. In my own conviction
Yeah.
of following through with what my heart really wants. So, thank you.
So do I have permission to ask you a question?
Yes, please.
So, I love when, I mean, obviously it's one of the greatest things ever when I hear people start to say like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start to facilitate. And I want to invite you into, does that mean you're going to put a stake in the ground in the next month, 2 months, 3 months? Like, what does that really mean?
Now,
All right,
today.
great. So are you wanting, or do you have a coaching practice? Is that something you're wanting to develop, or is this something different? Are you wanting to offer groups? Like, tell me.
A little of this, a little of that. So 2 years ago, I facilitated several women's group, and I loved it. I had about 7 clients, and I loved it. And then this year, I've done nothing but really, what I felt this year to do was prepare. So I've been taking classes, I've been reading, I've been really immersing myself in getting to that place of really honoring me. Who am I? And that was very important to me. So now I see next year as just really doing the work, getting in there, building my practice, doing the things that bring me joy.
Yes,
So now it's action.
great.
Can you see that you are uniquely qualified?
Yes.
Oh, I love that. That just went
John had just said-
I felt that in my heart, like claiming that
Yes.
for the world.
Yes, it's time. Enough. It's like,
Yeah.
I've come to a place, it's time. I'm 71 and it's time.
Amen. Are you thinking about the coaching program? Is that why you're
I
here?
have thought about the coaching program for 4 years. How long have you had it?
We've only had it for 3, so you were way ahead of the game.
So I left Insight and what's going on over here? So I thought, well, why don't I just come on in and do a trio?
I love that. I mean,
So great.
Glad-
So you've been in the hopper about the coaching program for a while.
Yes. Yes, I have.
And did you make any decisions on that as of yet, or not yet?
I have not made a decision of that as yet.
Is there something in the way of that?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there is. Dollars is in the way, and that has been in the way for the last couple of years because I've retired now. And so now I'm much more aware of my financial, how would I put this? I'm going to put this in a very positive way. I live my life well, and I'm happy with it, and I also have to be careful
So would that equal?
making choices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an expensive program. Yes.
Well, that depends.
Yes, it does depend, and so I choose not to make that a barrier.
I totally support you in that. And really, it depends meant something different.
Thank you.
Can I
So,
can I
yes.
share? So it depends on what your intention is. So I'm so glad. First of all, I so appreciate, Martha, that you're willing to do this and to be open and honest, right, about where you're at. I so appreciate it, and I'm so glad this is coming out. This is important. I know you're sweating. So I just want to offer to you, see, to me, the coaching program is a place where it's like, and Stephen and I have talked about this, and Steve and Stephen and I have talked about this, and Steve and Stephen and I and Ron and Mary have talked about this, and when Michelle was here, she talked about this too. So anytime someone comes into the coaching program and says, like, look, this is an investment for me, the first question we ask is, how quickly do you want to make this back?
Well, right away.
Great, because the only thing that's in the way, it's like everyone who comes into that room, it's like this is not a talk about program. This is a we're going to go out and serve program. We're going to start doing. So our only thing is great. You want to earn back your $15,000 investment in the first month? Okay, game on. Let's do that. Now, whether or not it'll happen in the first month, I don't know, but it's a great game to play. And certainly, as Stephen and I just were talking with someone tonight, to consider that you want to at least make back your investment of $15,000 over 6 months, that's like super reasonable from where we sit. With action, with conviction, with commitment. So I just want you to know, you want to come, we're your partners in that. And we mean that. It's one of my favorite things to do. And we mean that for anybody here who's in that place. Like, I want to be really clear, like, that's not just for Martha. We're here for anyone who says, it's like, great. Steve Chandler has that great story, because, remember, Steve Chandler's coach was Steve Hardison, who, if everyone doesn't know this, his fee is $150,000 a year. And, Steve Chandler wrote over lots of checks for $150,000, and Steve tells a story where he's like, okay, so listen, he hands her, and he's like sweating, and he's like, I really want to make that, I need to make this back. And Steve Hardison's like, okay, like, where's the phone? Let's start. And Steve Chandler's like, well, no, he's like, no, come on, let's have it. Let's make the 150, come on. Here's the phone, let's start. And Steve Chandler's like, well, I don't need to make it back today. Not today.
just over time.
Over time.
Yeah.
Well, and one other piece for this is, and I completely agree with Carolyn in terms of what can be created through next steps and actions. And I sit in the same seat she does in terms of what's possible within the program for 6 months. Like, we can partner with you in that if that was something you wanted. But moreover, when I look at the investment I've made in coaching in my life, in a point in time, look at, well, did I get 6 months of value? Yeah, but those things that I chose to do and who I became in that period of time have served me over 25 years. So if you map it out over a period of time, you said, I'm 71, like you've got a lot of time to be changing lives out there. And I heard the conviction. So we're just here to support you. You know, we want a group of coaches in the program that have the level of conviction that you're sharing with us. We all go up together when that happens. You're serving us all right now.
Yep.
And the shaking is just fine. Spirit moving through you. Spirit knows who you are.
So thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you.
Let's take one more.
Yeah, let's go. One more. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Johnny.
Johnny?
First of all, I'm really glad to be here tonight. I was ambivalent, which is a running theme in my life. But I'm glad I showed up for myself tonight. I relate very much to the big marker whiteboard over there that Karen was talking about, the big marker she had. All the words there, yeah, all the words there. You know, my desire, what I really want is to truly step into my leadership. Really be all in my leadership. You know, I came here tonight because I still am very much on the fence about entering the coaching program. You know, it's kind of like, again, the theme of my life for many years has been that sort of that 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You know, what should I do? And all the people, I look back at all the people in my life who I really admire. To me, they've never seemed to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. They've always had 2 feet in. And for as long as I can remember in my life, I've had people, experiences come up where the accolades have come, why don't you step up? And yet there's still this voice in the back of my head that says, if they only knew. If they only knew, they wouldn't say that about me. And yet these experiences and different things in my life have come up where I've had the ability and the opportunity to step into things, and I've done it, and it's never been as bad as my head said it would be. Yeah, you know, funny how that happens. And so tonight, before coming here, I was at my place of work, and I got into my car, I turned my phone on, and I was sharing with my trio here. The first text I saw was from this man who I know a little bit of, where I have a spiritual practice I go to, and he texts me and he says, "Are you a coach? Because I'd really like to talk with you." I never told him I was a coach. I never told him I did anything. And of all nights before I came to here, I get this text and it says that. I'm like, okay.
So, Johnny, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
What decision did you make tonight?
You know, I'm still on that fence.
Are you getting splinters on the fence?
I'm getting some splinters, and it's not feeling really comfortable right now. Yes.
Can we support you in making a decision that would serve you? Mary Holnick's question, making a decision that your future self will come back and thank you for. What would that look like tonight? No pressure.
Thank you.
Yeah, because we want you to do it publicly as we all wait.
But really, from your heart, well, let's say you don't even make a decision, but if you did, what would the decision be? What are you sitting on the fence about?
again, it's going back to that being all in my leadership. And I'm in a role at my job where I am in a leadership position, where I coach. And it's in a different forum than a life coach.
Sure.
It's an educational coach.
Yeah.
So I coach educators with curriculum. And yet I see so many of my skills from what I've learned here being brought into that as well.
Sure.
And I'm just thinking this would be a natural byproduct, this program, of bringing that in to not only my vocation, my current vocation, but even something on the side as a possibility.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's exactly where I'm at, is really stepping into my talents and my gifts as a leader.
What would it look like when you did that?
The first word that comes forward is conviction. I'd have
And if you were
conviction.
if you had conviction, what would you do? Because I think you have conviction, but let's just say that if you had conviction, what would you do?
I wouldn't seek outside approval.
Okay.
I'd have a very deep trust within myself, knowing that I am a leader.
Thank you.
Yeah, knowing that I'm a leader. And, yeah, just knowing I'm a leader.
And one of the things we started with early on this evening was that level of permission for self. Because my experience of leadership is nobody's going to come to me and say, you're a leader. You're a leader. Would you lead this? We give you permission to lead.
I permit you.
And I have wanted that to happen. It's never happened. So I'm standing with you as my brother.
Yeah, I appreciate that. This is like a big moment for me. I mean, I've never actually stood in front of a group of people and actually have stated that I am a leader. I am a leader. And yet it's been all around me for so many years. But to publicly say that.
And we all get... I'm sorry I interrupted. Go ahead.
I was just going to say the power that I feel in saying that. The power in giving myself the permission to say that.
Yeah. So acknowledge you for that. I want to ask, can I ask you something?
Sure.
What did you respond to the text?
That's a great question. I said, yes, I am a coach.
Phew. Glad we got that one.
Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't say. I'm glad you didn't say. Well, I'm on the fence.
No.
Not sure.
There was a part of me that did want to go there.
Be.
I did want to go there, and I didn't. I acknowledge myself for that.
Yay.
So yeah, and and it was like, yes, I am a coach, and I would love to talk with you. Period. End of text.
Well done.
How
So
can
I
I
will
serve?
see what that says
Well
tonight.
done.
Yes. Thank you.
Now, you said two things. You said, yeah, I'm a leader and I am a coach. Okay. So we're going to go into a process right now. It's going to really serve you, Johnny, because I heard you very clearly owning that you're a leader, owning that you're a coach, and owning that perhaps there's still one small thing that's on the fence for you. So are you willing to play all in on this next exercise?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. And then we'll talk after?
Okay.
And how many others are willing to play all
in
in
on
the
the
next
next
exercise?
Excellent.
I
All right.
hope so.
So the next exercise, we want to get
We'll
you there.
see what it is first.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. And if the assistants can help, let's get it set up first, and then we'll walk them through what they're going to do. So everybody, move your stuff to the side and stack your chairs, and then stand. You have to stand.
Perfect timing for this.
Yeah. And look this way. You don't need your stuff. So move your stuff. You don't want to have, I mean, you can put it under the chairs, but you don't want to be holding it. No, it's okay. All right. Chairs are stacked. Okay. So there are going to be two parts to this next exercise. And I know, like, this is probably the reason you all came tonight without even knowing. You're going to get to have two different kinds of mingles. Two. In the second year, you only get one. This is two different kinds of mingles. So we're going to walk you through the first mingle. Are you ready? So the first mingle, guess what you're going to get to do? You're going to get to walk around in your default future, having done nothing. You're going to walk around and you're going to walk up to someone. I'm going to walk up to Steve and I'm going to be like, hey, you know what? It's 9 months from now. I didn't do anything I said I was going to do. I had thought about like putting on some new events just myself. I didn't do that. I had thought about some really fun things for my birthday, and I didn't do that. And you know what? I'm going to tell you what that feels like. Feels kind of crappy. Like I feel so like I just feel like I feel lethargy. I feel like
Can we stop this part now?
I'm in molasses.
I get
So
it.
you're going to fast forward 9 months, and anything you talked about tonight, or even the thing that's in your heart that you didn't talk about tonight, you're going to be 9 months from now, and you're not going to have done it. And you're going to live into that. You get to experience inside of you right now your default future. Up to them, and one of you is going to start, and you're going to do your default future. There's going to be a total of 2 minutes for each of you to live into your default future. So that means you each have a minute. And as you can see, Stephen got really bothered by it very quickly. Now, the only thing is, this is the guideline, remember? Okay, it's 9 months from now, and I haven't done this, this, and this, or maybe it's one thing. And then if you don't say it, the person's going to say, what's that like? And you're going to talk about that. And then you're going to switch. And the other person's going to say, I didn't do this, and I didn't do that, and I did not do the coaching program, even though I've been talking about it for 6 years. Because I knew about it before it even existed. Right? So that, whatever that is. And you're going to do that for a couple rounds, and then we're going to stop you, and then you'll have another kind of mingle. So find a partner. Find a partner. And then right now, before we begin, decide who is going to share their miserable default future first. Who's going to share their miserable default future first? And we, for the purposes, listen, we want you to exaggerate. This is not any default future. This is a miserable, horrible default future. So really exaggerate what that's like, just for fun. So you're going to hear Tibetan bells every 2 minutes. When that 2 minutes goes, find a new person and tell it again. I know, it's so fantastic. And then if you need someone to share your miserable future with, raise your hand and find some other miserable person to discuss your misery with. Do you have any questions? Minute. You each have a minute. You have a total of 2 minutes. When that bell rings, you have to find someone new, so make sure that other person doesn't go on about their misery for longer than they should.
Self-monitor that.
Self-monitor your misery. Okay, please begin.
So good.
All right. Come into silence. You're doing all such a fabulous job of being miserable. We so acknowledge you. You did so well. The levels of misery was extraordinary. Now, we wouldn't let you end on this. You have to
Thank
have a
goodness,
mingle the
right?
other way. So now you get to have a mingle 9 months from now, and you did stuff. So for me, I'd be like, Stephen, it's 9 months from now. I put on a program for women that was extraordinary. So it was so fun, and it led to more of the women's corporate leadership work that I've wanted to do and that I've started doing, and that was amazing. And I had an extraordinary birthday year. I decided to do a birthday year.
Instead of a
Oh,
birthday
birthday
party.
day?
Yeah.
No. A year. And it's phenomenal. I feel like I have moved so much in my life, and it feels amazing. I had an extraordinary birthday trip. I had a really intimate dinner party. It was just fantastic.
Awesome.
Do you get the picture?
All right.
All right. So find someone new right now. And this is living into possibility. Go.
Great. Perfect.
Thank your partners. Thank your partners. And we're going to ask, you can either unstack the chairs and have a seat. You don't have to be neat and organized. Just unstack them and have a seat, and we will do what's next. And give yourselves a round of applause.
Good job.
All right, so who has something they want to share from that process that feels important for them? Sharing from that process?
Yeah. Mike? Yep. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bob. The process was phenomenal. The first part of it, it was kind of fun, and it was kind of joking around. How do you make yourself feel down, especially in an environment like this? But, I think we all did to a certain extent and kind of drug ourselves along. But the power in the second part was amazing, and seeing what I can see as the possibilities were totally amazing. I could feel it within myself, and I could hear it in my voice, the power of what the future looks like for me. And so I really want to thank you for this exercise. It was phenomenal. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bob.
Stand up,
Stand
and
up, please.
I'm Petra, and I actually want to share just a little bit about this process, but basically I'm here. Well, I love the process because it brings more clarity into what I'm looking for. I've been working with this question. I don't see myself as a coach, but I do run 2 businesses on which my goal is to be a presence of authenticity with my staff, and also to provide authentic service both on the goal line and on the soul line to my customers, and to every day do the best I can. Because what I found out is that there's a lot of joy in me when I being that I think every single totally blissful. Because I don't know if reach bliss.
Make a suggestion to it. Curriculum and the
Me with more creativity inside myself. Do you think that
I
will
have no idea.
Can I, did you say creativity? Or
creativity? Yeah, creativity.
If you chose the program from a place of my intention is to grow in my creativity or to allow my natural creativity to come forward, the program could assist you in doing that in a powerful way.
Petra, what kind of business are you in?
It's a fantastic business because I actually use it as an excuse because people come in to do legal documents, but what I enjoy the most is that I help them behind the veils. Let's say somebody's coming for a divorce and very down. What I enjoy the most is providing that support beneath the paperwork, which is uplifting and letting them know that they'll be okay and making everything easy. That's where my joy is, not the paperwork itself.
Sure, I understand. I'm not a big paperwork person either, as we all learn.
Except now you are.
And now I am. I'm sorry. What was I mean? I didn't mean that.
It's actually the joy that I experience when I hear somebody saying, "Thank you so much. You made it very easy, and you're helping me get through this." That's where I go like, "Yes, I did it." Inside of me, it's just a secret I have. Nobody's allowed to share this with anybody.
It's first of all,
Sacred.
Petra, it's so beautiful what you're asking. It's so beautiful. And it's so gorgeous, this intention you have in this business. I mean, I'm just sitting here reflecting on it. Okay, so she's saying to me, like, will I experience ultimate bliss in the coaching program?
Well, will I find ways to experience blissfulness as I provide service out there? And will the coaching program allow me to find creativity to do that? That's what I mean.
And my answer is really the same as Stephen's. If that's your intention, absolutely. If your intention, and to me, since the coaching program is really, the whole foundation is based on one of service.
Yes, okay.
That, I could see that serving you beautifully.
It's set up for that.
Okay.
And it sounds like when you're sitting with people, there's some coaching element to what you do.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
Great. So it's handled.
Yeah. Okay.
So are you on the fence or off the fence?
I'm a little bit over the fence right now.
You're hanging on.
You're like,
There's fingernail marks.
Is it like a wooden fence? Is it sharp? Is it because like a barbed fence
I
could
just
be
need
really
somebody
uncomfortable?
to just push me there, and then like you're there already. Just be there. Just. But I think it's more clear now what I'm looking. Because at the beginning, actually, I have one question I was thinking of. Will a private coach do that, or will the coaching
So let me
program will do that? So I have questions like that.
Well, let me answer one more
And I
question.
did send you an email, by the way.
You
Me
did
or
what?
Stephen?
Yeah, it's Steven. You haven't replied to me, by the way.
See, Stephen, you need to work on the detail thing. Just saying.
Because I'm lurking
Pretty
through
good
that. Through that, will just a few sessions of private coaching do that, or will I have to sit through a $15,000 program?
Well, my message
I mean,
to
I'm
you.
just being honest.
Well,
yeah,
I appreciate it, and I'm not. I really hear you. And at the same time, I want to say to you, you get to choose. You get to choose. Talk tonight to Lisa Peak before you go.
Okay.
Or to myself or Carolyn. Talk to one of us about the specifics of the program, and we will share the specifics. But even though we'll share the specifics, you're still going to have to choose. Even if it were an ashram that you went to, there's still going to be a choice of what's my intention here? What am I going to get? What am I choosing to get from this?
And one other thing I want to say to you, Petra, is that, as Michelle Bauman once said to someone here during one of the evenings, like what you will get from an individual coach You won't get, what you will get in the program is wildly different than what you will get from an individual coach.
Okay.
You'll
See, that's the little push I'm looking for.
I'm really good
See,
at that.
that's a really good push.
I am
That's a really
known
good
as
push.
being quite a wonderful pusher.
Good. I like it. Push
Most
me.
of the time,
Push me.
people like me. Sometimes they don't.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I like it.
Good. Is that helpful?
It does. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
Thank you.
So,
All right, let's touch right hand.
so we want to honor our time. You guys have been
Amazing.
fantastic. Thank you so much for coming. So we want to make sure that you're aware of a couple things before we complete. So first of all, we want to acknowledge the fantastic team that is supporting the coaching program.
Lisa, stand
Lisa
up,
Peak.
please.
Lisa Peak is the director of the coaching program, the Soul-Centered Professional Coaching Program. And then we have Tammy Scott, who is also a graduate of the Soul-Centered Professional Coaching Program, who is supporting the enrollment process. And then we have the fantastic Amy Ruby, who will be a member of the Soul-Centered Professional Coaching Class of 2017. So thank you guys. So they're here. They're here for you. We are going to be here for you. So we're here. If there's a burning question you still have about the curriculum, about us, how we work with you, anything, make sure you get it answered. We're staying. And then we also want to say to you, for those of you that have pushed yourselves over the fence, you can move into the next process with Shabnan tonight and register and get the splinters out of your butt from being on the fence.
How many here have done the coaching program? Raise your hand. So you can, there's a few here that you can go speak to as
Absolutely.
well about their experience too. So,
Yeah. So
great.
we just invite you, getting off the fence either way is a fabulous experience.
And thank you for being here, and thank you for online.
Yep.
I know it's late on the East Coast. You
Exactly.
stayed with us. Blessings and light to all of us.
Thanks again.
Okay.